Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Base of the Design Podcast. We talk about everything construction, building products, and construction news. I'm Fuzzy Pollock.
And I'm Joe Pollock. We are so glad to have you here for our first podcast.
Absolutely awesome, Joe. Yeah, we are super stoked. How's your week been going so far?
Well, we are a manufacturer's rep with 20 different manufacturers, and so it's been pretty busy.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, and it feels like Tuesday 2 weeks from now. This is how that kind of feels. It's been super crazy. Yeah, we're stoked to get this podcast started. We've been talking about this for quite some time. So yeah, we're going to talk about, as we said, construction news, building products, current events in the construction industry. What are we going to do on this podcast? How are we going to bring everybody together? Right there, the guy that's strapping his boots on first thing in the morning to the building owner or the architect, that's designing this thing. How are we going to include everybody together? What are we doing?
Well, we've talked about this for a while, and we're going to try to make this as interesting as we possibly can. We're going to talk about some technical things, but we're also going to make it kind of lighthearted. We're going to talk about some things that maybe are personal things in our life that are related to the construction industry and that kind of thing. Yeah. I went and looked at a lot of different construction related podcasts, and most of them are all very technical, which is fine. Yeah, kind of dry, which is fine. I mean, if that's what you want to do, if you're an engineer and you're really into that nerdy kind of pencil protector, shirt kind of stuff, that's fine. But
every engineer just unfollowed. Don't stay. We're here for you too. We love you guys. Couldn't do this without you.
That's okay. I'm sure they appreciate it. But we're going to try to keep it light. We're going to try to keep it interesting and keep your attention. We're going to talk about a lot of different products. We're manufacturers. We're up with 20 different manufacturers of products that we have. And so we're going to, we've got a lot of experience with various types of products, mostly exterior envelope type products. Some of those bleed into the interiors as well. We have some products that are very unique in the industry. So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of those, maybe talk to various subcontractors on how the products are installed, why they liked it, what was easy about it, what was hard about it. We're going to talk with maybe some architects. We're going to talk with some the manufacturers themselves. And we're going to go to job sites. We're going to look at projects that are under construction and projects that are completed. So we're going to give you really, guys, a real kind of a portrait of all the different products that are out there. We're going to hopefully depend on you to give us some feedback on products that you guys want to talk about or you guys have that you want to elaborate on as well. So we're definitely in this for the long run. We got a lot of different things to talk about, and so that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, and hopefully we see the production quality of this podcast go up. We're doing a lot. I've done a lot of stuff, in the past with social media, YouTube, all that good stuff. This podcast is kind of new to me. We've had some equipment, some stuff. We're trying to figure out how this works. So, any suggestions you guys have, please. We want to grow this thing together. Also, any type of anybody that wants to work together, collab on some stuff, if you're in the construction industry in some way, whether you're a manufacturer, an architect, or any of that stuff, please reach out to us. We want to connect. The construction industry is monstrous. And, so we definitely are going to need to, lean on you guys in order to bring, all of this, all of this onto the podcast, right? We're going to need to be able to, work together to do that. And we want to learn from you guys and want you guys to learn from us. So we're super excited about that. Other than that, obviously we're running this company, Joe. What on earth makes us qualified to have a podcast? Exactly. What is going on?
Well, I started this business in April of 2010, so it's been 15 years since I started Architectural Engineered Products. And me personally, I have over 40 years experience. I grew up in Virginia. I had a small home improvement business when I was in Virginia. I hung thousands of squares of vinyl siding back in those days in the late 70s. 1980, early 1982. In May of 82, I moved to Texas because there was a recession going on at the East Coast. And I had an opportunity to move here and stay with my sister for a while until things got better. But again, I moved here in May of 1982 and never went back. There's always been been a job here for me, and we've definitely grown. Not only grown as a company,
Hmm.
but grown as a family as well. I met my wife in this industry. She was working for a company called Malenko or Moncrief Lenore back in the early 1980s, and she was my salesperson. I was working for a company called Metal Systems Incorporated, which was one of the largest architectural sheet metal roofing and sheet metal companies here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in that time. And she was we bought a lot of metal building products from her, and that's how I met her. And we just sort of grew business wise and relationship wise from that point on. But from then, I spent 7 years at Metal Systems, became their chief estimator and project manager there. And then I left at that point and went to work for a company called Fabrel. Fabrel is a major architectural and industrial metal panel manufacturer.
Hmm.
They also do a lot of agricultural work. So I
Yeah.
was in charge of both agricultural, architectural, and industrial products that they manufactured. And so I could be, ankle deep in chicken crap in the morning, talking to a chicken house on, building his next 3 chicken houses out in East Texas, to going down into Houston and meeting with a major contractor who's building the next energy plant or a petroleum plant in Beaumont.
And
And
if you've
talking
never
about,
traveled through that area, that is a thankless job. Those chicken farmers, man, you can smell those farms coming from miles away. Yeah. So getting out there in the middle of that's amazing.
yeah, not only that, but the processing plants. Whew, mercy.
Oh yeah. And this
But
is back in the days when, Joe, you're traveling, right, with, a map, right? A map, and you're hitting up payphones and then planning your stuff out, right?
yeah, I had a shoebox full of maps of every city that I would have, because my territory at that time was all of Texas and New Mexico. And so I had to go to all the different cities, and I had the fold out maps with, everybody highlighted of all my customers and everything. And you'd have to, follow your maps if you couldn't remember exactly where everybody was. But yeah, so I would leave here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and drive to, 6 hours to Lubbock, stepping along the way, Abilene and a couple of places in between, and stop in Lubbock for the night. And then the next day I would drive into Mexico into Ruidoso. From Ruidoso, I'd go down to Las Cruces. From Las Cruces, I'd go to Deming, and then west over all the way to the Arizona border at Silver City, and then come back to Truth or Consequences, and then back to Las Cruces, and then El Paso, and then from El Paso to Midland, Odessa, bring that back up all the way to I-20 back to Abilene, and then back into town. It was a week-long trip, and it was about 2,000 miles. I knew every payphone along the way that I would call the plant in Idabel, Oklahoma, is where the plant is. And I would, get all my messages and everything from all the different customers that, needed orders and all that kind of stuff. So that was the day, those were the days before cell phones or anything. So
Yeah.
it was pretty incredible. But then I got a job with Centria.
Just touching base before you go into Centria. So back then, or was this slightly prior, the old days of, now we live in this very instantaneous age, right? Where I get a customer that reaches out and they want to quote 2 hours ago. You know what I mean? It's not a quote, that they need in a week. But back then, or at least somewhere when you start of your career, right? One of my favorite stories is about you going to plan rooms. So having to go down to the city plan room and physically lay out a plan, right? Could you talk about that real quick?
Yeah, we had AGC, Association of General Contractors, and they had a plan room. And when you got a call from a general contractor or an invitation to bid from a general contractor, you had to go to the AGC or go to the general contractor's office to pick up a set of plans, and he would charge you for them. So we would go to the AGC, and you could just get whatever drawings it is that you had. They had great big drawing tables there. You just laid them all out. You'd have to hand sketch everything that you were going to be bidding on, like a roof plan. I'd have to sketch out a roof plan, put down all the dimensions. I had my scale and all of that.
And like graphing paper?
I had to have the graph paper and all that kind of stuff. And then we would sketch it all out and everything, and then take it back to the office and figure out what the square footages were and all of that, and then put together a quote based on all of that, So yeah, so it was a completely different time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We didn't have Bluebeam takeoffs and
Yeah.
that
Well,
kind
that's
of
something I
stuff
kind of want to talk
back
about.
then.
I think in the future of our videos is I think that we were mentioning this the other day that so how long before I say that how long would it so I was a customer, I reached out to you back then and I want a quote. What was your quote turnaround?
Well, back then, I mean, they actually gave you time. Several weeks,
There's shade.
several weeks typically in order to get a quote together and whatnot, as opposed to, hey, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and this thing bids at 3. Can you give me a number?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like it is today, So no, it was entirely different back then. And I also did, all the shop drawings. I have an architectural background. So, my penmanship was really, really good. And when I moved to
It
Texas,
is incredible, by the way.
applied for a job at Metal Systems. I filled the application out very neatly, very nicely, with very nice penmanship, architectural penmanship. The guy, Steve Malachik was his name, that interviewed me, and he took my papers and he looked at it and he looked down and then he looked up at me and he said, "Can you do shop drawings?" I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I can." And so we had, drawing tables with the sliding, straight edge and the angles, the triangles, and the little bag of eraser that you would crumble onto the paper to keep it from smearing, and pencils. We would draw everything with pencils, not like today where everything is obviously done on a computer. You're just sitting in front of a computer and it makes it so much more easy. But yeah, I mean, we had time back then. That was the beauty of things. It was
because of you
a lot more
saying
tedious.
that, growing up. Yeah. Because of you saying that growing up, one of the things that I do to this day, though I obviously am not turning in applications a lot, but the last, any application or anything that I turn in that's of any professional manner, it's all digital, as you said, but I always handwrite a cover page for all that because of that story. Like to this day, at almost 40 years old now, because of you talking about that story whenever I was, younger, and his penmanship is insane. If you'd seen it, it's incredible.
When I do lunch and learns now, and I give a sign-in sheet to the architects there or the designers, and I have to ask them as soon as we start, please sign your name like an architect and not like a doctor, because they don't have to do that anymore. They don't have to write anymore. Everything is done with a computer, and it's crazy. I mean, they'll just scribble, and it's like, what? I mean, you're an architect.
Do you want credit for being here?
Some of the old guys, some of the older architects, that have been around for a while, have the beautiful penmanship, and it's so easy. But some of the younger ones that are just coming out of college and stuff like that, they have no clue. And so, it's, can I have to, teach them a little bit? But yeah. So anyway, I went to work for Centria. Was with Centria for 5 years. Learned a lot about insulated metal wall panel business. And then I went to work for an ACM Armetco Systems. It was an ACM fabricator, one of the largest ones in the Texas area, but they did national work as well. And then I got hired away from Alcoa by Alcoa, and that's when the housing crisis hit. So having said all that, my history is I've got a lot of experience as far as with all of the customers in all of that territory that I had to deal with, all of the architects, because I did more lunch and learns during that time with Centria than anybody in the company, I think, at that point in time. And so I knew all the architects, I knew all the customers, I knew all the people. And so I just decided after I got laid off from Alcoa, what am I going to do now? I really don't want to go to work for another major business. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and try it on my own, in which I did, and hung out my shingle in April of 2010, and just got a lot of help along the way from a lot of friends and that are in the industry, a lot of other reps in the industry, and just kind of hit the websites and find manufacturers that may be interested in representation, and found a few that really worked really well for us, like Cambridge Architectural.
Yeah.
We did, they were one of our first. CalZip, which is another one that just set us off. I mean, we do so much CalZip work every year, and so we win some, we lose some. We had various manufacturers along the way. Some of them worked out, some of them different. That's just sort of the life of an independent rep. But right now we have a line card that is very, very strong. We have some really great manufacturers that we represent, and
it was really cool to see too on this end. I just wanted to start to interject in here before you even get into the line card of today. it was really amazing to watch, you work for these companies, and then for the way you and Patricia just wholeheartedly supported each other through this, and the way that she supported them. This was just a huge leap of faith. And you started off with
100%.
just what a couple, right? It was just like two manufacturers right up front, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When at Cambridge,
yeah,
and
for-
like, and then
yeah,
like
I
one
mean,
more.
I even had some of my rep friends say, you can go ahead and try to promote this. If you sell something, then I'll give you a part of a commission on it, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
like
I mean, people were, it was almost like, a handout,
huge.
but, I had
That was
I had
huge.
I had a friend, I have a friend out in Florida, Bob Taylor, who, he came into town and he gave me a lot of advice because he's, been in the business for a long time and a rep for a long time, gave me a lot of advice, helped me out with some manufacturers and stuff. And we just sort of worked together to build our businesses. We,
Mhm.
we have worked together with other manufacturers to help them develop their business in North America together and stuff. So yeah, it's been a process.
It
I
has.
spent the first 2 years, I spent a hell of a lot more money than I made. I'll guarantee you
I
that.
can guarantee that just seeing it. Yeah.
But you're right. Patricia, my wife, is a major player in that. She's a major player in our business today.
hmm
She too has been in the metal business for a very long time as well.
Yeah.
She retired about 2 years ago, and then sort of came to work with us part time as a sort of she does various things with the company now.
Yeah, you used to go to take your kid to work days at Castle Metals, what, in the Farmers Branch or something way over there, like
Yeah,
over
they're
there east?
they're in Grand Prairie. Is
Grand
where they
Prairie.
were. Yep.
Yeah, to go there and help her file paperwork. She stayed in construction her whole life too. This whole family's just
She,
basically been in
she
that.
did. She did. When it comes to steel, she knows steel, man. So
She does. She's
yeah.
been an incredible
When
sales
she was
for
when she was
Norton.
working when she was working for Castle Metals, though, she was kind of like their aeronautics person. So she was selling like that 6-inch thick of titanium slabs and stuff like that. That's what she was selling.
That's
So,
crazy.
with the air, her major, customers were Bell Helicopter and General Dynamics and Lockheed and those people. They were building, all the
Before
whatever it is they
SpaceX,
build.
you know.
Yeah,
Now,
before SpaceX.
now she could just clean house if she had
Yeah,
an aeronautics account.
yeah.
So yeah, it
Now,
brings
now,
us up to today, and now we've got you started from 2-ish manufacturers, and then now we're at 20.
I think 20
Yeah,
is what we're at now. I mean, 20 products,
right.
not necessarily manufactured, but 20 products. Yeah, I mean, some of the they're
Basically, we can
some
do your building from the skin on the outside, right? The weatherproofing, to your thermal clips, to rain screens, to, I mean, if it's the exterior of a building and it's
yeah
a
we
special product, we don't have very
yeah
many niche products, right? Like, or excuse me, sorry, that the exact opposite. We don't have very many
yeah.
monopoly style products. We have
We
very
can take it
beautiful.
from the sheathing out. So you got studs and sheathing, and we can
Yeah,
take it from there out, whether it's the waterproofing or the membrane that you're using there, insulation we have various clip systems, subframe attachment systems that we have, and then just a wide variety of exterior envelope cladding type materials, like I said. So anywhere from stone to metal to HPLs to wood to you name it. I mean, we've got something that we can provide for the exterior envelope. And then we get into some of the specialty stuff, like we get into a little bit of solar stuff. We work with a company called EnergyWare that does solar things, EV charging stations, that kind of stuff. So yeah, a little bit off the beaten path. I tried to stay away from glass products most of my career because that's not my forte. I really don't get into glass at all until you came on board and you
I
started
was gonna say,
the, and then skylights became your
uh,
big thing. I mean, we had Wasco skylights before they got bought by
yeah,
Velux, and which was a great sort of family owned company, and we were really successful with them, and
yeah.
that was an awesome company to work for. The folks there with that company were incredible, and we had some really great sales meetings and stuff, and doing some cruises and whatnot, and it was great. And
Oh
then
yeah.
they got bought by Velux. Everything kind of went to hell in the handbasket. But yeah, we did a lot of skylight work, and now that we've got another skylight manufacturer in Apollo, which is a Texas-based skylight manufacturer who does really nice work that we're really proud of. You're
Yes,
working with
love
those
them a lot.
guys. Yeah, you're working with
Yeah, and
those
then
guys to get that.
We did
And then
about a decade with Wasco. They got bought by Velux, so they went a different direction, which was really cool. I mean, they're growing up and they're a great manufacturer, doing a lot of really great things. So it's cool to see how they've grown, and now we're able to. I'm hoping we're able to start this same thing with Apollo, like you said, Apollo being a Texas-based company. It's always good to, we love working for these U.S.-based companies, and we really search them out. And I think that we try to prioritize a lot of that with our company, as so many people do. But now we're going to hopefully see Apollo grow up to, I mean, they're beating up Velux's door. I mean, everything that we're pricing lately and the stuff that we're installing, I mean, they're standing up toe for toe against all the big guys around the world, and they're making incredible stuff right here in Texas.
Yep, absolutely. And then another product that I just got this past year, which surprised the heck out of me, but it's such a unique product that I think works well with the rest of our line card, is a product called Okolux, which is a glass product. Can be insulated glass. But what it is, it's a German product where they take glass, and in between the glass, they apply various types of other materials for daylighting and for light distribution. And it's such a cool product, and it's become very, very popular. It's one of my most popular lunch and learns that I'm doing now is the Okolux. I just did a really nice program at Dallas AIA a couple of weeks ago, and it went over really, really well. Yeah, it's a really cool product, and so it sort of integrates with the exterior envelope products that we have already established for the others. So if you're not familiar with Okolux, if you're familiar with the Toyota dealerships, every Toyota dealerships has this big white monolithic structure out right there at the very front at the entryway, and those panels that you see there are actually glass panels, and there it's called Okolux. They can light them up at night and create various ambiance and that kind of thing, but that's what Okolux is. So it's used a lot It's used a lot now in a lot of sports facilities, gymnasiums and things like that. It's also used a lot in hospitals because it creates some really nice diffused lighting. Same thing in schools, laboratories. There's a lot of different applications for it. It's going to become one of our most successful products, I can tell, here in the coming months and years. So really excited about that product too. So yeah,
for sure.
We've got a lot of different products to talk about. We'll go all through those products at some point in time in our podcast, kind of give you a little bit more education on those products, and kind of, maybe show you some really cool projects that we've got using them as well.
I'm super excited to expand, outside of that. We represent, like we said, 20 lines. There's way more than that out there. And so someday, I'd really like to be able to learn more about other stuff. And we want to learn on this podcast, like together. I'd love to learn about new things because we can't bring it to you guys, right? And educate you guys if we don't know about it. So if you guys got anything out there or anything you're working with that you really love, of course, comment below. Bring it on. Let us know what you guys got going on. Let us know you guys, questions. If you have questions in the construction industry, let us know. I mean, we really need this to be a back and forth podcast. Of course, me and Joe are here, but we really need the feedback from everybody that's watching this to know what they want in the future, for sure.
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, I tell my guys, I've been fortunate to open up another office in Houston this past year, hire another salesperson, hire some other, employees and whatnot. But as far as the products are concerned, I always tell my guys, my salespeople that, I've been in this business a long time. We always get new products all the time, and I'm still learning every day. Every day I learn something new. I mean, I traveled yesterday with one of our manufacturers, with one of our fiber cement manufacturers. They also distribute, and we represent terracotta for them and ceramic cladding for them and fiber cement, high density fiber cement for them, as well as an attachment system, subframe system. And we went and visited several different of our installers yesterday and went to some job sites of some local projects that we've done. And when I left, I just shook his head and I said, thank you, because I learned so much today just from, you being here, being in town, talking to our customers and stuff that I didn't realize about the products. And so even the products that we represent that I've had for a very long time, the manufacturers are constantly coming out with new things, with new R&D, with new products, that kind of stuff. And it's a constant learning process. And as far as the competitor stuff, we need to know what our competitors are doing. So we need to know about our competitors' products as well. We need to know how to, sell against them. We don't negative sell anything. We don't negative
Right.
sell our manufacturers. We don't go in and say that XYZ company is the crap and you need to buy this kind of stuff. And I'll tell you why, because it's, this, that, the other. We don't do that. What we do, we like to sell our product. We like to sell the attributes, the good things, the important things, the technical things about our products. We like to sell to the architect why he should be using our products and not necessarily why the negative sell the other products. So,
Yeah.
but we still need to know what those products are, who those manufacturers are, what they are, presenting out there, because that makes us more competitive in the marketplace.
Nice.
When we hear a customer say, "Well, I didn't use you this time because I used XYZ company." Well, why did you use XYZ company instead? Well, maybe it was price. Maybe it was because it was an easier installation. Maybe it was because they had a color or a profile that was different than what we have. There's all different kinds of reasons why, and we need to know. So it's always good to hear from you guys. Let us, give us feedback on things that we talk about, and let's make it a back and forth. We're glad to hear it and glad to listen to you.
And where we're at, we've been super blessed that you've built this line card up over the years of really, like, I mentioned, before, I don't know if it'll come out in this podcast or not, but I did mention before when we were talking about, we don't, nothing we've got is really monopoly. You're not just like copy and paste and stuff onto other things. So because of that, our competitors, they're not monopoly pieces. It's not, we're competing against the best products in the world. In my mind. And yeah, I think that they all deserve respect, and they all deserve a place on somebody's building, and whoever you decide to go with, should be that. But we also, as you said, would love to learn, hey, was our product more difficult to install? Well, then we need to send that to the R&D department so that they can start working on an easier install, right? That's how we all get better and make this, at the end of the day, it's time and cost effectiveness for a lot of these products, when it comes to value engineering, if you're not familiar with that term. Generally, you can have a wonderful product. It's what the customer wants, but they just can't afford it. Maybe the install is too expensive. Maybe the product itself is too expensive. So we all need to work to become better, to make sure that, we fit more of those molds that are being built or being set out there for us to be a part of.
100%. That's what it's all about.
Cool. Well, that brings us up to our section of the podcast where we talk about current events. And in this one, you have been on this, doing research, getting all set up. I have heard some things, and I'm going to, be here for this, but I am very excited to learn about how tariffs are affecting the construction industry right now. What are you seeing right now, Joe?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into a bunch of, technical stuff about the tariffs and all that kind of stuff. We all know that tariffs are affecting our business.
Correct.
I was reading an article where architectural billing, this is from the AIA, have dropped in 28 of the last 31 months. Now, that's not necessarily because of the tariffs. There's probably other reasons for that. But construction over the last few months has dropped about 9%, is what I've been seeing. So there's obviously a reason for that. The economy from the previous administration, because of interest rates and because of all the negative economy that we had during that time, that affected. I'm sure that's affected that 31 months of decline in billings. The tariffs have created the tariffs have created a whole new issue. I mean, I'm not going to get into the politics or anything like that. There are some economists out there that think the tariffs are the greatest thing since sliced bread. There are other, people out there on the other side that are saying that it's the worst thing that could ever happen to this economy. So, everybody's got their opinions on it, and it's all going to work itself out at some point. I know that when Trump was in office the first time and he used tariffs to a little bit lesser degree than what he did this time, they worked really, really well, and our economy just took off and just blew up. Today, it's a little bit different story.
I didn't even remember that making the news before. So yeah, that would have obviously, just if it benefited stuff, then nobody would have brought it up. But now we're looking at some steeper tariffs nowadays.
So now you have, this fight with China, and Trump raises tariffs, and then they raise tariffs, and then he raises tariffs again up to 400%, and then they bring it all back down again to something else, and then you have the fight with Canada and the fight with Mexico, and then you have with Europe, and it's all starting to work itself out. There's a bunch of egos that are in play here, and eventually it's going to work. I mean, there is money coming into the economy.
Listen, we're seeing that, right? I mean, we're seeing it working. We have Canadian manufacturers, we have European manufacturers, and nobody at this point is terrified. Terrified.
Oh boy! Oh boy! He's got jokes.
Nobody seems to be that scared on that end. From what I'm seeing now, I don't know that. Again, I didn't do a lot of these facts. I've did a little bit of research on my own. I'm seeing where we're meeting somewhere in the neighborhood of like 10% with some of these countries, and like everybody's communicating very well. And those are normal. I mean, you got to have some tariffs going back and forth. It seems to me like that seems to be pretty typical of a lot of stuff for a long time. But yeah, we definitely need to.
You have Canada, that are with their steel and lumber tariffs, they're at 25%. But I think it's in July, the first part of July, they're supposed to go up another 25%. So, that's going to affect steel prices, steel and aluminum prices. So, but the thing is, I was talking to one of our manufacturers or distributors earlier today, and we were talking about the podcast, and we're going to be talking about, and this came up, and he said, you know what? I just had one of our other reps asking, where is that money going? Who collects that money? Where is it coming from? And so it's actually collected by customs at the port, and then it goes to the government, and the government then distributes that money to various parts of the government, whether it's road construction or whether it's other different bureaus of whatever that they distribute the money to. So it does get collected. The money does get collected. It doesn't just go into somebody's pocket someplace, but the money does get collected. It does go to the government, and then the government then disperses that money out to different areas of where it's needed. So yeah, it's hopefully at some point in time, it is affecting construction. I think, we see
for sure
everybody that I've talked to, as far as our customers are concerned, and contractors that we've talked to, say that that it has affected projects. There's more projects being budgeted, I think, than actually contracts being issued, because they're kind of waiting for the budget thing to get squared away a little bit better, I think, and then they'll, for the prices to come down, because and some manufacturers are also holding their prices as long as they can, so they can get these orders in. Mm-hmm. So that's another aspect of this whole thing. But it's also affecting contractors because of these delays in projects being contracted, getting orders for these projects, and after their bid and the delays and so on, and the budgeting and so on and so forth, contractors have to lay off people from because the work just isn't there. So it is affecting it all the way down to the people who are actually building the buildings. The actual construction workers. It's not only the people with the money at the very top who's wants to build the building, but it goes down to the general contractor. It goes into the architect, who is losing the amount of projects that he's having to mm-hmm. to draw for folks. And then it goes down to the general contractors, because they just budget and spend money and money and money. They can't afford it, for over a period of time. And it goes down to, they have to start laying people off on the job site level. So, it really does affect everybody. And so we really need to get this thing, this tariff thing really ironed out. Hopefully, maybe by, sometime in the summer, the end of the summer, the end of the year, that we'll get to a point where people will feel a lot more comfortable, and they'll start releasing some of these projects, and we'll start seeing that in the economy going into maybe the end of the year, going into 2026 for sure.
Yeah, I do like hearing that there are communications happening. That's good. I think that we're making the right step forward there. I mean, like you said, it travels all the way down. It travels from the subcontractor who's picking up day labor, or people to work every day, or their normal crew, all the way to your GCs, and then your owners, your architects. And then that travels right back down to all of us. If we're going to be purchasing something from this building that we're building in this, and it costs X number more money, they've got to charge X number more of product. So yeah, it affects all of us from in the construction industry all the way down to the consumer. But it's good that we're seeing some forward movement, and we're fortunate. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say we're fortunate that we live in Texas.
Yeah.
Texas, it's the eighth largest economy in the world, and so we are very fortunate. That we have a lot of work going on. There are still, things that we have to pay attention to. There's still, a lot of budgeting going on that, that just is going to take time and that kind of thing. But at least they're talking about projects, they're budgeting projects that will eventually come to fruition. But we just have to wait. But we're fortunate that we live in the area that we do live in. Because at least we stay busy, maybe not as busy as we want and not as busy as our manufacturers want, but we are staying busy. So that's the most important thing.
Very true. It is hard. But they all know, everybody seems to know you. We've got to just navigate this the best that we can. Yeah. And it makes sense. It's good that we're seeing some movement, and I'm excited to see where we go from there. We really have some really unique products. I can't wait for the podcast to move forward, and we can kind of share some of those. There's also some really unique products we compete against. I'm really hoping to be able to get to explore some of those and see what they've got going on as well. And it's going to be really cool to see where this goes.
Yeah. And then, we're, other than obviously construction products, we'll eventually get into some other things too. There may be some movies that are out there that have some really cool architecture in it that we get to talk about, or we may be able to travel. I know that next year that one of our HPL manufacturer, Fundermax, is going to be having their national sales meeting in Austria next year. And so we'll be able to bring back some really cool stuff out of that.
Hey, podcast from Austria sounds cool.
Yeah, I know. We just came back from Germany a couple of months ago for the CalZip sales meeting, which was awesome. Got to go to the factory there and see some of the things that they've got and some of the products that they want to try to develop for the market too. So we'll be bringing all of that stuff to you. And, maybe just some lighthearted stuff like John is into, like I said, I'm not into all of the different hobby stuff like he is. I love to work out in my yard, and I love I'm a tinkerer. I love to build things. It's maybe at some point I'll give you a tour of my treehouse that I built. The treehouse,
yes. I was gonna say this is the most epic treehouse.
I mean, I spent a couple of years building this thing, but it's pretty incredible. I have some of our products that we represent on it, some Millennium Forms, peacock tiles on it, and some at the time we were representing Prodema, which is a HPL wood cladding material and stuff like that. So it's a really unique build that I'd spent on. So maybe at some point in time we'll give you a little bit of insight into that. The inside's pretty cool too. But
it might not be the biggest treehouse or the fanciest, but I can promise you that it is the most expensively clad treehouse in the United States, if not the world. It's very well clad.
That's true. That's true. But John's into a lot of different things. He's on the national rock climbing team, and I'll probably get into this at some point too. He's on an adaptive rock climbing team because he's you
wanted to talk about DEI for one of our current events, so hey, that's me, right?
Yeah, exactly. So John is a very special person, and he's come a long way. He's had a lot of different things go on in his life physically that have created some issues for him, but he has overcome tremendously a lot of that issue, and he's just into so many different things, and I'm just really proud of him for all of that. Not only that, but for other stuff that he does here for the company as well. So, he does a lot of our social media stuff with, things for LinkedIn or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. We don't do a whole lot of Facebook, but we do have that. So, but he does all that stuff as well as handle some of our, the products that we represent, like our skylights, Millennium Forms, and he hires, or not hires, but he handles some of our larger subcontracting customers as well. So, like I said, he's got a lot of different hats that you'll see at some point in time.
But
sure.
Yeah, the only thing I haven't able to ring in there is the old Olympic bobsled team. So if anybody ever sees this and needs a pair a guy for their bobsled team, it's on the bucket list. I want a bobsled. We don't exactly have a Texas bobsled team.
It's kind of hard to do with one leg, but you know,
but there's guys out there doing it, and they're on the para team. It's crazy.
But yeah, it's we'll bring John will bring you some of his stories of some of the things that he does and how we can tie them into construction as well. Yeah, so that's what we're gonna try to bring to you guys in future presentations. So we're real excited about this. This is our premiere, our maiden voyage into all this. We've got a lot to learn and a lot of things to work out here, but it'll get better and better and better as we go forward.
There's definitely some fanciness involved in this, which is a little bit past my pay grade, but we're going to figure it out.
That's right. All right,
Cool,
John,
cool.
What else?
I think that pretty much covers this particular one. That gets us all the way through our talking points. Guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please like everything, whichever platform you're on. We're going to post this in several places. So please like, follow, subscribe. Make sure that you guys comment below. Give us something to interact with. What do you guys want to know about? Tell us some stuff. We will absolutely include, when this starts and as this is getting going, we're going to include everybody in this thing. We will put, if you're commenting below, we'll answer the question on a future podcast. That hopefully will not be able to happen very soon because we'll be so inundated. But as this thing's going, we totally want to connect with you guys. We want you guys to keep building, stay smart out there, stay strong. What was it?
Guys, keep building, keep innovating. We appreciate you. Stay solid, folks.